Good evening and welcome to the April 11th meeting of the Lowell License Commission. Secretary Nguyen, was the meeting posted?
Yes.
Number 1 on the agenda, please.
Acceptance of meeting minutes for the March 28, 2019 meeting.
Move approval by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Howell. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, motion carries. Next, please.
Proceeding with number 1, applications for special one-day license to sell, dispense malt beverages and wines only, or either one, starting with Jennifer Simone, representing the Mill Number 5 at 250 Jackson Street. Events for the 4th and 5th floors for the following dates. Digs, which will be Saturday, April the 13th, 12 noon to 4 p.m. That whole thing on Saturday, April the 20th, 12 noon to 4 p.m. Mammoth Makers Market, Saturday, April the 27th, 12 noon to 4 p.m. The Oddity Marketplace on Saturday, May 4th, 12 noon to 4. The Mother's Day Marketplace, Saturday, May 11th, 12 noon to 4 p.m. The Nerd, which is Saturday, May 18th, 12 noon to 4 p.m. And last is the Mammoth Makers Market, once again, for Saturday, May 25th, 12 noon to 4 p.m.
Good evening. State your name for the record. How are you, Jennifer?
How you doing?
Good. Have you held these licenses before? You have?
Yes, I have.
All right. You have any questions for this board?
I do not.
You understand your responsibilities with this license, correct?
Yes, I do.
All right. Questions or comments from the board? Move for approval by Commissioner Howe, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, motion carries. Jennifer, good luck with the events.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Proceeding now with application for beer and wine. Ashley Roper, who is the catering manager for Aramark, for the following events. At the University Crossing, 220 Pawtucket Street. This is the LLC celebration, which is the Living Learning Communities, for Monday, April 22nd, 2019, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. At the location, University Crossing at 220 Pawtucket Street, Difference Maker Idea Challenge, which would be Wednesday, April the 24th, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. At the ETIC Saab building at 40 University Ave, there is the Engineering Recruit Dinner, which is Wednesday, April the 24th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And last is the Allen House event at 2 Solomon Way, which is the Associate Dean's Council Gathering, Tuesday, May 7th, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Ashley Roper.
How are you, Ashley?
I'm well. How are you?
Haven't seen you in a while.
I know.
What's going on?
Not too much.
Not too much? All right. Questions or comments for Ashley? So moved by Commissioner Donahue, seconded by Commissioner Howell. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, motion carries. Ashley, good seeing you. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Following which we have Constantine Soulius of the Transfiguration Greek Orthodox Church for a beer and wine for the event to be held, the Greek Festival 19. This will be at 25 Fathers John Sorrentos Way. It's Friday, May 31st, 2019, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Saturday, June the 1st, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Good evening. State your name for the
Good
record.
evening.
State your name for the record, sir.
Konstantin Chulis.
Mr. Julis, have you held this license before in the past?
Yes,
I
this is
believe-
my 9th year.
9th year?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. All right. Questions or comments for Mr. Julis? Move approved by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? You're all set, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck with the event.
Proceeding with the application for special,
Wow. Hey, Corey, go grab him, will you, for me?
number 2 on our meeting agenda, we have the application for special license to sell, dispense all alcoholic beverages. Penny Hamill, representing the Westford Rotary Charitable Endowment, Inc., for the event, the 18th Annual Blues and Brews Festival. This will be at JFK Plaza, Arcan Drive, Saturday, September 7th, 2019, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Good evening. State your name for the record.
Penny Hamill.
How are you, Penny?
Good.
Good. So what we got going on here?
So it's the Blues and Brews.
Yep.
We did amend our application slightly from last year. Last year, we only got a beer and wine. And the only reason we're amending it is because I guess technically some of the drinks like Mike's Hard Lemonade don't fit in the other classification.
Okay.
We had some issues with the distributor last year. We've always had that type of drink at the festival, and it was never brought up to us before, but I don't know if it's just changes in the way that they do things, but
That's
We
fine.
just want to make sure that everything is covered, but
That's fine.
the
Did you-
event's still going to be exactly the same.
Exactly the same, okay.
Yep.
And you held this license in the past, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Captain Hodgins, any issues with this application? Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the board? Move for approval by Commissioner Howe, seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Penny?
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Commission will now proceed with the applications for special events permit for amplification of sound. Is Constantine here?
He just left, but
He just left.
it's all right.
So-
Penny, you can just come on up one more time.
Transfiguration Greek Orthodox Church, Greek Festival for 19. And simultaneously with the beer and wine, they will have the amplification
That's fine.
sound system on the church grounds. That'll be Saturday or Friday, May 31st, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday, June 1st, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. We also have Penny Hamill of the Westford Rotary Charitable Foundation, sound system for live music, the 18th Annual Blues and Brews Festival, Saturday, September 7th, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. at JFK Plaza. On our second side of our agenda, we have Fatimata Minyonge of the Christ Jubilee International Ministry for the church 20th Anniversary Celebration Parade, which is Saturday, April the 27th, 2019, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. This would pertain to a portable sound system for music, singing. The parade route would start at Smith Street to Liberty, to Chelmsford, to Westford, back to Smith Street. Last, we have Francois Chevalier for the Salsa in Lowell, a salsa class and practice open to public, the sound system for recorded music at the Boarding House Park at 40 Front Street for the following dates. Starting Thursday, May 9th, preceded by May 16th, May 23rd, Thursday, May 30th, Thursday, June 6th, June 13th, Thursday, June 20th, and the 27th. Each date, the hours would be 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m.
State your name for the record, please.
Famata Mayanga.
Good evening.
Good evening to all.
Just move over right there.
Penny Hamill?
Okay. Sir?
François Chevalier.
Bonjour, monsieur. Captain Hodgin, have we had this event with the Jubilee International Ministry that sing parade route? Has this happened in the past, or have we needed any police?
I don't recall if we've had it in the past. Maybe they could.
Is this the first time that we've
This is
had
the
this?
first time.
This is the first time. Have you coordinated anything with the Lowell Police Department en route?
Yes, we did talk to them. I'm supposed to bring a check to them next week for the cruiser.
No, all set with that. Okay, that's very, very good. Okay. I will be attending that if Commissioner McCarthy will be doing the salsa. Sounds good. Any other questions for our applicants? Move approval by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Howe. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Everyone, good luck with your events. All right.
You are all welcome to.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Commission will now proceed with the fourth item on our meeting agenda. It is the hearing, to continue from the date of March 28, 2019, on the allegations of misconduct as charged by Raymond Kelly Richardson, the Superintendent of Police, communication dated February 20, 2019, against the licensee, The Last Safe, Inc., doing business as The Last Safe and Deposit, at 160 Merrimack Street, Timothy Regan, Manager of Record.
State your name for the record, sir.
Good evening, my name is Jay Hardigan. I'm an attorney with my offices here in Lowell. This evening, I'm representing The Last Safe, Inc.
Perfect.
The acting manager, Mr. Kelleher, I am told by the co-owner, Mr. Kaplan, is on his way, so I assume they must have been, he's here?
Okay,
They must, yeah.
that's fine. Captain Hodgson, read the complaint into the record, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Lowell Police Department respectfully requests that enforcement action should be taken against the above licensee, The Last Safe and Deposit, for what we believe violations took place on February 10, 2019. On that date, at approximately 12:55 a.m., our communications center received a 911 call from a male. And I just want to add for the record, that's an error in the complaint sent to the chairman. The first 911 call was not the victim of the assault. It was actually his friend who was removed as a patron and wanted to get his jacket.
Thank you.
And I talked to Attorney Hardigan with that, to clarify.
Okay.
So the first 12:55 a.m., Lowell Communications received a 911 call from a male who stated that he was removed from the bar and would like to get his jacket. Approximately 12:58 a.m., we received a second 911 call from a female who identified herself as a fiance of another person who was assaulted in the bar by bouncers. As a result of the 911 calls, dispatch sent cruisers, notified Trinity Ambulance, and also Lieutenant Peasy, who's here to testify, was the supervisor in charge of downtown patrol, responded to this location as a result of those two 911 calls. Upon arrival, the officers learned that there was an altercation in the bar. They further learned that during the altercation, a firearm from a Mr. Doherty, who was there at the establishment, became dislodged and fell to the ground and subsequently went missing. As a result of that information, Lieutenant Peasley summons more help with officers to respond downtown area. And as stated, during a follow-up investigation by Criminal Bureau detectives, they discovered that Mr. Doherty assisted one of the bouncers who turned out to be a roommate of Mr. Doherty. And that's how the firearm came out of the holster, fell to the ground, and subsequently was reported stolen. We checked the recorded 911 calls. We did confirm there was only 2 phone calls made, 911. No phone calls were made to our business line from any other people involved in this incident. We also did a further check 20 minutes prior to the first 911 call, and we did a check 20 minutes after the second 911 call. We did not receive any other 911 calls or calls to our business line in regards to this incident.
Have we
Also,
found,
Sergeant Cormier, who will testify tonight, was the patrol supervisor for the late night shift. He also responded as a result of this incident, and he'll also testify to that. And thirdly, Detective Corey Erickson also testified. He conducted a follow-up investigation. His purpose was to try to find the firearm through video, but he did interview employees of the establishment, and he'll be the third witness called.
has the pistol been recovered?
No, it has not. It was a .45 caliber handgun. We did recover I believe two magazines that belonged to the firearm inside the establishment.
Captain, would you like to bring up anyone for questioning?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Lieutenant Peasley?
Lieutenant? State your name for the record, sir.
Sure. Lieutenant Dave Peasley, work with the Lowell Police Department.
Go ahead, Captain.
Lieutenant, how long have you been a police officer?
22 years.
And can you tell us what your assignment was on the evening of early morning hours of February 10th, 2019?
Sure. I was the lieutenant in charge of the downtown patrol.
And can you describe for the commission what is the function as a supervisor of downtown patrol?
Sure. So the downtown patrol is a unit that the police department deploys primarily on Friday and Saturday nights, specifically to deal with issues that will come up regarding the downtown bars, specifically some crowd control issues. We visit the establishments almost on a nightly basis, make sure they're compliant in terms of overcrowding, making sure the exits are kept, making sure there's no over-serving. And also, we assist patrol as needed when the bars close down.
Okay. And do you work this assignment on a regular basis, downtown patrol?
I do. I usually work it a couple times a month.
Okay. At approximately 12:55 a.m. to 1 a.m., did you receive or monitor a radio transmission by dispatch?
I did.
Can you tell the commission what that was?
Sure. The initial call came in that there was a patron who was trying to get back into the bar to retrieve an article of clothing, and that he was being prevented from doing so.
Okay. And did you receive any other calls in relation to that incident from anybody else that you're aware of?
No.
Okay. And when you arrived at the last safe and deposit, could you tell the commission who else was with you?
Sure, so I had my, the two patrolmen that worked for me had got there prior to my arrival. I believe a couple of patrol officers had been there as well. And I think there was an ambulance out front, or it was en route when we got there.
Okay. And upon arrival, do you recall who you spoke to first?
I spoke to my patrolman.
And what, if anything, did they tell you?
They had told me that prior to being dispatched, there was a fight that occurred down into the bar, and that as a result of the fight, that somebody had got knocked over and a firearm fell to the floor, and they have been unable to locate the firearm.
And once you received that information about the firearm, what did you do next?
I initially called for more units to come down into the area. We went into the bar itself and secured the bar, and we began a methodical search of the bar itself. We began looking in trash barrels. We began, I think there were still some patriots in there. We started patting some people down. We looked for surveillance cameras, which there weren't any surveillance cameras. We went into the back behind the bar. We looked under tables, anywhere that possibly a firearm could have fallen and got kicked. And unfortunately, our search was fruitless.
Okay. And you were the highest ranking officer on scene that night?
I was.
So fair to say you were in charge?
I was.
Okay. At any time, did you speak to any employees that worked there, whether security or bartenders, in regards to this incident?
No, I just spoke with my men.
Okay. Did any of them come forward to you about this incident when you were inside the establishment?
Not to me, no.
Okay. And you said you did not locate the firearm,
No, we didn't locate it.
and that firearm subsequently was reported stolen?
Yes, so we ended up speaking with the person who was in possession of it. We ascertained that he did have a license to carry, his proper license to carry the firearm. I evaluated his condition. He appeared to me that he was not drinking. I couldn't smell any alcohol in his breath. He was very coherent. You know, he did not look like he had any drinks at all in him. But it you know, was a serious incident. It was definitely a public safety emergency at that point.
And when you spoke to the owner of the firearm, did he indicate why he was at the establishment that evening to you?
Yeah, that was my first question. You know, what are you doing at a bar with a firearm? And he told me that he was an employee of the I think it was the Leominster Police Department. He was a dispatcher, and that when he goes out in public, he carries a firearm. And you know, fortunately or unfortunately, it was legal to do so. He didn't commit any crimes. Matter of fact, he was a victim of a larceny, really, at that point.
Did he indicate that he was a friend of any particular employee of the last safe and deposit?
No, not to me. He just said he was there with a friend of his.
Okay. And at any time, did you speak to Mr. Regan?
That night, no.
Mr. Kelleher, I'm sorry.
No, not that night. Yeah, I think later on, once we secured that scene, I did see Mr. Kelleher over at the smokehouse, and I just kind of touched base with him, which I always do, and just say, you know, hey, do you understand what happened over at the safe? And there's going to be an increased police presence downtown, and we're going to try to get people out of downtown a little bit quicker than normal, only because at that point we knew there was a firearm somewhere in that vicinity. I think that was the only conversation I had with him that night.
Besides securing the establishment and searching for the firearm, was there any other actions that took place or that you had other officers do outside the exterior?
Like I said, we ended up calling in officers that normally would be patrolling the neighborhoods to the downtown area just to increase our presence. We ended up, I think Sergeant Cormier can explain a little bit more, but he kind of positioned officers at certain intersections to make sure that we were highly visible because of the knowledge that there was a firearm somewhere downtown. And that we wanted to help to make sure that normally we allow people to kind of hang around a little bit after the bars and just socialize, but that night it was, because of the heightened risk of public safety, we really get everybody out of there quick.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
Attorney Hardigan, since the lieutenant's up there, would you like to ask him any questions? Sure, if you can go through the board, go through the chair, please. Step right up to the lectern, please.
I want to understand whether or not the lieutenant has any personal information regarding how the fight started or how the fight occurred.
You can answer that, Lieutenant.
Sure. No, I don't. I have no idea.
All right. Is that all, Attorney Hardigan? Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Lieutenant Peasley? Thank you, Lieutenant. Captain, would you like to bring up anybody else?
Yes, Sergeant Cormier, please.
Sure. Good evening, Sergeant. State your name for the record.
Evening. Raymond Cormier.
Sergeant, could you tell us how long you've been a police officer in the city of Lowell?
This is my 21st year.
You could tell us your assignment the night of February 10th, 2019?
I was assigned as the Alpha Sector Street Supervisor.
And could you tell the board commissioners what part of the city the Alpha sector comprises of?
Alpha Sector includes the Centerville section, Pawtucketville section, as well as the downtown area.
And how long you been on the late shift?
Approximately 1 year.
And during that year, on Friday and Saturday nights, or even Thursday nights, could you tell the commissioners what the role of patrol is during closing time for establishments?
During closing time and leading up to closing time, the street sergeant will go downtown, monitor the capacity of the different bars and nightclubs and the overall population of downtown, and they'll pull units that aren't tied up with other service calls in to help with the crowd dispersal, and it's almost as a deterrence, public safety issue that we go down there with just a presence.
Okay, while you were downtown that early morning hours, at approximately 12:55 to 1 a.m., did you monitor radio transmission for 160 Merrimack Street for the last safe and deposit?
I did. I had heard dispatch give a call out to Car 8, I believe, regarding the patron that wanted to get in to get his jacket.
Okay, and as a result of that radio transmission, what, if anything, you did next?
I was aware that the downtown patrol was in that area. I didn't go right over, but then I heard a follow-up transmission from Car 8, Officer Belanger, who said, and I was able to determine there was more to what was going on, so I immediately went off with Lieutenant Peasley.
And what exactly did you learn that was more to it?
Lieutenant Peasley had already gone downstairs when I went off. I spoke with Officer Belanger, and he informed me that leading up to the incident that was transmitted by Lowell, the lost jacket, there had been a fight inside, and during the fight, a firearm had become dislodged from its holster from one of the patrons, and that it was missing at this time, and also that the magazine, which was inside the firearm, had also become dislodged from the firearm.
And did you go inside the establishment?
I did.
And when you went inside the establishment, did you speak to any employees?
I did not. I spoke with Lieutenant Peasley.
Okay. And when you spoke to Lieutenant Peasley, exactly what did he tell you?
He basically followed up with the information that I already had. We had a brief conversation regarding how we were going to handle it, the division of labor we were going to use our units for, who was going to stay inside and help with the search, and who was going to remain outside.
And where did you remain?
I was in charge of the outside effort.
And could you tell the commissioners what you did outside?
I contacted dispatch, and I had them pull every unit that wasn't tied up on an emergency call, and I had them come downtown. I wanted to put officers at every corner that was downtown on the off chance that someone had seen something, and passing by an officer, they would do the right thing and hopefully give us some more information.
And at any time, did you hear any radio transmissions or to speak with any employees of the Lost Safe and Deposit, or them notifying of us of this incident?
No, I didn't have any conversations with any employees.
And was any other law enforcement agencies notified to assist us that evening? Assist
Yes.
you?
I also radioed dispatch to call UMass for additional units to come by, and also to put out the information regarding the situation, because I know there's a large population of students that come downtown. If the fireman was picked up, there was a good chance that could end up back on campus. I wanted them to be aware.
I have no further questions.
Attorney Hannigan, anything for Sergeant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Commissioner Donahue, Sergeant, 1 second, please.
Yes.
As part of your investigation, separate from the gun, do you know what caused the fight in the bar?
I do not.
Thank you.
Captain, any additional witnesses?
Yes, the last witness be Detective Corey Erickson.
All right. Good evening, sir. State your name for the record.
My name's Corey Erickson.
Detective, could you state for the record your current assignment?
I'm a detective assigned to the Criminal Investigation Division at the Lowell Police Department.
And how long have you been a detective in that unit?
17 years,
And how long have you been a police officer?
19 years.
Okay. At some point, were you notified in regards to an incident that took place at 160 Merrimack Street at the last safe deposit on February 10th, 2019?
Yes.
And can you tell us how you became involved in this incident?
We had reviewed reports that had, reports of crime that had happened overnight, and recognized that a firearm was lost during an altercation that happened at Last Safe on Merrimack Street.
And as a result of the investigation, did you interview employees of the establishment?
Yes.
And do you recall speaking to, do you recall which employees you spoke to?
I spoke with 2 bartenders, 3 bouncers, 2 victims of an assault, and the bar manager.
Could you tell the commissioners what the victims of the assault told you about how this incident occurred?
Following the incident that occurred in the bar, the 2 individuals had made their way to the main desk to file a complaint for assault. They stated, they spoke with the desk officer at the Lowell Police Department and said that they were each assaulted inside the bar. One of the individuals had articles that remained inside that he had interest in retrieving. I had also contacted and spoke with the person, the individual that had lost the firearm inside.
Okay, as far as the person that you referred to came in and reported the assault, did he any of the other 2 parties with them state how this incident occurred or what caused it?
The 2 individuals that came into the main desk, they stated that one of those individuals had an altercation or a verbal altercation with the bartender. The bartender contacted one of the bouncers and ordered that they be removed from the establishment. During the removal, a physical altercation began, and there was a fight in the back area of the bar. The bouncers were attempting to remove the individuals. The fight grew, and an individual who lost the firearm, who was a roommate of one of the bouncers, became involved. He was knocked over, and a gun that he had in a holster around his waist became dislodged, and was ultimately missing, stolen.
Okay, during the interview with the employees of the bars, did any of them state that they notified the Lowell police in regards to this altercation involving a stolen firearm?
They did not.
So fair to say none of them called the Lowell police in regards to report this incident?
They did not.
Fair to say the owner of the firearm, who's roommate at one of the bouncers, also did not call to notify the police?
He did not.
Okay. And the owner of the firearm, did he state he went to assist his roommate after someone jumped on the bouncer's back, and that's how it became dislodged, the firearm?
He did. He described the altercation as he observed an individual being removed by his roommate, one of the bouncers, moved towards the back area of the bar. He described that another male jumped on his roommate's back, and he became physically involved. He stated that he was punched, and then a larger altercation with punches, shoving, pushing, and a struggle ensued.
And do you know if any of the employees or the males involved in the fight, the patrons, sustained any injuries?
One of the individuals that had come to the main desk suffered 4 or 5 cracked teeth, front upper portion and lower portion of their teeth. And the individual lost the firearm, had abrasions, small lacerations to his head, and the individual that the incident stemmed from that was being removed had some minor scratches and abrasions to his head as well.
Did the person with the cracked teeth state or try to identify who did this?
He said that he was able to physically describe two of the bouncers that worked that night that became engaged in the altercation, but he would not positively be able to identify the individual that caused the injury to his mouth or the actual mechanism of injury, because he stated that he was choked unconscious.
Okay, so fair to say that no positive identification was made of any employee
No,
as far as your investigation?
that's correct.
And as far as the person with the firearm, that injuries he received, was he able to identify anybody as a result of his injuries?
No.
Did he did we take an assault and battery report on him as a victim, do you know?
There are two from this incident involving two police reports. There's a victim of larceny in regards to the firearm, and there's two victims of assault and battery reported at the main desk.
Okay, so the owner of the firearm did not report himself as a victim of an assault
He
and battery?
reported himself as a victim, but he said in no way would he be able to identify a suspect. It's that, as well as the firearm and the assaults remain active and ongoing investigation.
And just to confirm, what's the status of the firearm?
It's still missing, stolen.
And could you please tell the commission what type of firearm that was?
It's a .45 caliber handgun. A magazine with 6 rounds was recovered at the bar underneath in the back area where the altercation took place. Six rounds remain inside the magazine with the belief that when the gun fell, the magazine ejected. And the individual who lost the firearm had 2 magazines on his person with 7 rounds each contained in the waistband that officers took custody of.
Okay, you submitted a report in regards to your follow-up investigation of this incident.
I did.
And do you recall speaking to a bartender, Kyle Polachek?
Yes.
And do you recall in your report stating that he did not summons the police and wasn't sure if anybody from the bar called 911 about the incident?
That's correct.
And then, do you recall speaking, according to your report, the bartender, Julia Porosky?
Yes.
And do you recall in your report, she also stated she did not summons the police and wasn't sure if anyone called the bar, called 911 regarding this incident?
That's correct.
And according to your report, you spoke to a bouncer, Colin Matthews,
Yes.
and he also stated, according to your report, that he did not summons the police and wasn't sure if anyone called from the bar called 911 about this incident?
That's correct.
And then you spoke to the owner of the firearm,
Yes.
and was he the one that told you about his relationship with the doorman being roommates?
Yes.
Okay, did he state why he was there that night with a firearm during his interview with you?
He said he carries a firearm at all times.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Attorney Hardigan, do you have anything for Detective? Please step to the lectern, please.
I'd be interested to know whether or not the 2 individuals who filed the report, whether in their conversations with Detective Erickson, whether they described any prior incidents, either that evening or previous to that, with any members of the SAFE.
You can answer that, Detective.
They did not.
I'd also be interested to know the detective's opinion as to the level of cooperation subsequent to this incident by the SAFE. And it's my understanding, as evidenced in his report, that Mr. Kelleher made his employees available for interview. Mr. Kelleher actually went down and spent the time to view the videos that the detective possessed, and in fact, in response, voluntarily supplied all the credit card information that they would have. I think it was from 11 o'clock until it was closed. So I'd be interested, and I think it's important to the commission to know what level of the cooperation the establishment had in this. It potentially could have been a very serious situation.
Go ahead, Detective, go ahead.
I would say that all individuals that I spoke with cooperated with the ongoing investigation and the theft of the firearm.
Detective, so we're talking about a firearm and then 3 additional clips on his person?
There was one, yeah, he was carrying 21 rounds, a firearm loaded, one in the magazine with 21 rounds in total. So the firearm that was stolen, it would be my opinion, based on my training and experience, that 45 caliber handgun has, when it was removed from the bar, it had a round inside the chamber.
Commissioners, any other questions for Detective Erickson? Commissioner Donahue?
From what your testimony is, the fight started when one of the bouncers started to escort a person from the establishment, and that was at the request of one of the bartenders?
Yes, the bartender was called a name
That's,
and ordered one of the bouncers to remove the person.
okay. And then that disgruntled customer turned on the bouncer, it appears?
There was a back and forth. The bouncers had made a determination to remove that individual towards the back of the bar. The person was trying to recover his jacket and his keys. He was being removed from the establishment without his property. So ultimately, based on the testimony of other individuals, the person was just trying to get their property before they were removed, and then a physical altercation ensued.
So basically the patient initiated the exchange by calling the bartender a slur, and
Yes,
then the bartender issued a bouncer to escort him out.
yes.
Okay. But then again, the victim doesn't know which bouncer hit him, correct?
He was able to physically describe 2 of the bouncers, but not the focus of my investigation is the theft of the firearm and whether or not somebody was assaulted and whether or not they can identify those individuals to be able to charge them for crimes.
That's fine.
So, and that's the focus.
Commissioner Howe?
In your investigation, did you determine approximately how long the altercation lasted?
There was a large number of, the safe itself does not have video cameras, nor were they using a card reader on it. So the estimation on the amount of individuals that were inside the bar, based on the employees, they estimate between 75 and 100. The only thing that I could go from was the exterior cameras that the city has that are in place downtown at private businesses. And from based on the crowd that exits, the time of call, the crowd that exits, it would be my estimation, and the 911 call itself, it's all up until when the firearm went missing. So, I mean, I can tell you what happened after the firearm went missing. How long this happened inside would only be in the testimony of the statements that I took from the individual bartenders. From what I understand, it appeared, based on their testimony, that it was a bit protracted and happened it took between 5 and 10 minutes for the removal and then the altercation. But going off of 911 calls for missing articles, I can't tell exactly.
Right, thank you.
Lieutenant Peasley, Sergeant Cormier, can you add anything to what Detective Everson said about what time elapsed here? Do we know how long the fight was? Lieutenant, no?
I don't, I just know that when I responded, I just know that I responded because of the initial call about the missing clothing. I don't know what happened before that.
All right. Sergeant Cormier? No? Thank you. Attorney Hardigan, anything left for, no? Thank you, Detective. The gentleman that's back there, you're a bouncer, right? Can you come to the lectern, please? Could you state your name?
Shane Welch.
I'm sorry?
Shane Welch.
How are you, Shane?
Good.
Can you add anything to this episode? Were you
Just
one
in
of the
gen-
Were
you
you
want
one of
my
the bouncers
story?
that escorted that
Was,
gentleman out?
yeah.
You were. Okay. Can you tell us what you saw? And obviously, you were called by the bartender, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So at the time of this happening, I was changing the music.
Yep.
Because like people had ran over, changed a bunch of music. So I was changing the music. The only reason I knew there was a fight was because I watched the bartender jump the bar to run over to assist the other bouncers. I was like, okay, I need to get over there. So I went over. The bartender was attempting to restrain someone who was swinging at the other bouncer,
Okay,
and I helped him by grabbing his legs.
yeah,
And then I restrained him onto the ground. So I don't know how long this is going on before I got over there, but I was restraining him onto the ground. I was using my full body, and there was a woman screaming in my face saying, "I'm going to call the cops."
okay,
And I said, "Good, do that, please." So I watched her pick up her phone, and I heard her screaming into her phone, "There's an assault happening at the safe."
okay.
And-
Shane, are you under, or are the other bouncers under the directive from the management to, is there a point person that would make a phone call to the Lowell Police Department if there was a disturbance inside the bar?
Just any one of us that can.
So
As far as
there
doormen.
isn't any, just
As far as
basic,
doormen, if, there was one doorman upstairs at the
Yep.
door.
okay.
He obviously didn't know.
Did you see Mr. Doherty come inside the door that night?
Yeah,
All right, what time did he get there?
wouldn't be able to tell you.
Okay, all right. Any commissioners have any other questions for
How
me?
long have you been working over there?
Almost a year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Captain Hodgins, do you have anything additional you'd like to?
Yes, Mr. Welch, at what point did you know that a firearm was missing or stolen during this incident?
While I was still restraining the gentleman.
And did you call 911 or call the Lowell Police in regards to this?
No, I did not, because they were already there by the time I escorted the guy out. I was focused on finding a gun and getting these kids out.
Do you know of any other employees called that night?
No, because we were focused on finding a gun that was inside the building. And I knew that someone had already called the cops to get them down there. By the time I got out, which seemed like maybe 2 minutes, the cops were already outside.
Okay, so no one called the police to report a firearm that's missing inside a liquor establishment that night?
That's correct, because we told them in person.
Do you know who this female was that allegedly made the 911 call?
One of the guy's fiance, I don't know which one.
I'd say. Okay, did you hear what she said on the phone call?
I heard her say, "Yes, I'd like to report or I can't say it verbatim. I don't know exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines of, "There's an assault at the safe."
Okay, but no mention of the firearm being involved in this
She didn't
incident?
know there was a firearm involved.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Attorney Hardigan, would you have anything for Mr. Welch?
In context, I would. I mean,
Okay.
I think there's a couple of points I'd like to raise prior to making inquiry
All right.
of Shane.
Okay. I think what worries me at this point with the safe is that, first, the question I just asked Mr. Welch is that, since there was no on-site management present at that time, there should be a designee of sort to be a manager on duty. And that was the reason why I asked Mr. Welch that question, because it doesn't look like there was a point person or a bartender, a main bartender, or a bouncer that would take the initiative to call the Lowell Police Department of a disturbance. So I'll let you answer. Counsel, go ahead, right ahead.
I think Shane, if he could answer that question, would answer it differently. There is not necessarily a point person designated, but what there is instruction by the management team that any available individual make the call. So, and the concern is that if they say X makes the call and X is embroiled with the altercation, then the response is delayed. I think what has to, there is obviously no call made. There is nobody here on behalf of the safe to testify that a call was made to the police department. We're all familiar with the local rule. It says, or otherwise. Now, what Shane testified to was that he was involved in attempting to subdue the individuals in the altercation. The woman who's identified in the CAD report, and I'd get to that in a minute because I think the captain and I disagree that the report does not accurately set forth the sequence of calls. But what Shane testified to was that he's got this woman, he's obviously otherwise detained. She screams at him, that says, I'm going to call the police. He says, in essence, please do. Now, if you look at the CAD report, the first call,
Hold on one second, just so I'm clear. This happened outside of the bar that she
No,
called?
no, this
Was
happened-
the call, she made the call inside the bar, Shane? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
and I think if you listen to the 911 call, it pretty much paraphrased what Shane says. Now, if you look at the CAD report, and that was attached to the original submission for the March 28th hearing, and what that says is that the female called at 12:55. The male, and I'm suggesting that that is the individual that was in the fracas, was because she's identified as the fiance of Bagdasson. So she's inside the bar. She calls and tells Shane, I'm calling the police. Not until 1 o'clock, 1:24, so 6 seconds less than 5 minutes, is the first combatant, the individual that was asked to be removed, outside the bar. Now, so by that time, we get the first call at 55 minutes after midnight. According to the CAD, it is dispatched shortly thereafter. So clearly, the reasonable inference is that we know where the safe is, we know where Car 8 is in downtown. So the police are there by the time this altercation is finally subdued. This was just not one or two guys. The individual was asked to be removed. They were doing that. Some of the individuals which he came started jumping on the bouncer's back. They were outnumbered. I assume, parenthetically, that's why Doherty gets involved, because he takes a look at it and it escalates. I think the police testified that it estimated that it could have been 5 to 10 minutes. I don't think it was that long, but there was a whole lot of pushing and shoving. So, and the other thing I think that it's critical to keep in context is the entire context of this situation. After the altercation stops, what Shane would tell you, and I think the reports by Detective Erickson summarize, they then realize that there's a .45 caliber somewhere loose in this location. They don't know where it is, they don't know who has it, they don't know what the individual's intent is. So, in essence, should have somebody called the police? But again, Shane's saying that the police are coming down. Thank God, they're taking control of the situation. So, I mean, I think it's similar to the situation. Obviously, different scales, but if I'm home, I hear a pipe burst, should I call the plumber? First thing I'm going to do is try and figure out where the water's coming from and shut it off. So typically, I would leave to the captain's discretion, typically these guys call the police. They file reports within the 48 hours. This was a situation which they had never dealt with before, where there's a .45 loose somewhere, they believed, on the premises, through no fault of their own. There's no violation for this individual to come in. We don't have, thank goodness we're not at the point in the city where we have to have metal screeners and detectors and that sort of stuff. This guy gets into the fracas. I think if you take the gun out of this, I mean, the failure to report an illegality, I think that's pretty clear to me, meaning, as I provided for in the memorandum, there's got to be foreseeability. There's no prior evidence that these people had any altercation. And again, the Supreme Judicial Court and the ABCC, they take a look at it and they talk about agitation, loud commotions, fights, altercations. There was none of that. This individual realized that when there were consequences for his actions, gets upset. So he calls the bartender, obviously a derogatory name. Mm-hmm. They take the appropriate steps and says, you've got to get out of here. And apparently the individuals that he was with also took exception to it.
All right. I'm going to agree with just about everything you just said, because Mr. Kelleher is very good about notifying the Secretary when any disturbance that happens. My concern here is, first off, Mr. Kelleher wasn't there. There was no manager there, or somebody who was supposed to take Mr. Kelleher's position at that time. Now, I do this maybe more often than I should, but being a prior bar owner in this city, if I wasn't there, there was number one, number two, number three. this happens and the bartender's involved or the bouncer's involved, the other bartender needs to call. It's a chain of command. So let me just finish. So that didn't happen there because, and I just want to make sure I'm correct. 3 bartenders on that night or 2?
2.
2. So we had 1 bartender who was standing there watching what was going on because the other bartender was in the melee.
I'd suggest the second bartender's also looking for the gun. I mean, this fight's going on.
Once again, get back to what I'm saying. Nobody is in charge. Nobody's in charge. There's
This is
nobody
not a
there.
typical situation. You don't drill for this type of situation when there's a 45 out loose in the establishment.
Understood, but there's certain protocol that has to be taken priority. It's that plain and simple, especially if the manager of record, who wasn't the manager of record, that is the manager of record, wasn't there. That's what I'm saying,
But
is that
he
we
was-
need to follow protocol, and we didn't.
He was 100 yards, I mean, what is it,
I
100
get it.
yards away?
I got it. I get it.
He was there before the police arrived, I think.
All right. Commissioners, have any other questions for either Attorney Hardigan or anybody else that's in the chambers?
You
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just wanted to state that it appears that the fight had started, and before the man dropped the gun or the bumped, the fight was going on. He got up after the fight had started and then saw that there was a need for help. And I guess at the same time, the bartender jumped the bar to assist. That was the guy that probably should have been on the phone before he jumped the bar to call the police and say, we got a problem here. And then the fight went on, and at some point, the man with the gun was bumped and his gun fell out. So there was a fight ahead of time that was going on.
Mr. Donahue, I think it was all one fight. My understanding is,
I
based upon...
understand, but
he
moved from one point of fighting, and then the gun drops. There was time for somebody before the gun was realized that the gun had dropped, that there was a fight going on. That's what I'm getting.
All right. To respond to that, factually I disagree, but I think it's important to note that we don't have any evidence to support any of that. I mean, we've got statements from, well, I guess we do have evidence, but factually, I think it was, you have to leave. No, I'm not going to leave. I mean, the individual that called, he called and said, now he's got the theory is he's calling 911. We've all listened to that call. He calls 911 to say, I need to get my jacket back. I mean, he didn't report that he was assaulted. You know, so, and this is 5 minutes after the fiance calls. And I don't know which one she's the fiance of, but there was a bag of donuts and the other guy, yeah.
Commissioner Donahue, anything further?
Not at this point.
All right, Commissioner McCarthy?
Counselor, I just think that, Commissioner, we'll put right on the money here, the lack of supervision. You know, when something like this happens, it's not something that happens all the time. And everybody's gonna panic when there's a gun missing. I understand all that. But if they were trained properly, somebody should have been in charge to go get the help to get them. And that didn't happen. That's all I can say. The fight, I can understand the fight. I understand all that.
I
I
hear...
am concerned about the fact that there was no supervision there. And I think there might have been some lack of training, or you need some training over there too. To train these guys, people, what they have to do.
I hear what you're saying, Mr. McCarthy, and I really do appreciate the sentiment, but I keep getting back to the fact, I don't know how I would deal with a 45, I think, and I would defer to these guys, I think the 45 is the most powerful.
I understand all that.
Yeah.
I understand that, but when you're running a business, somebody
Yeah.
has to be in charge.
I know Commissioner Howe has a question, but it really worries me that under the employment of the last saving deposit, there's a bouncer who knows a friend is carrying a 45 in their establishment. That worries me. You're the bouncer, and your friend walks in with a 45 caliber handgun? Are you kidding me?
I get it.
Are you kidding me? Come on.
I get it, but what do they do? Say you...
No, what I say is, give me the gun, we'll put it in a safe, and then when you leave, you can have it back.
I don't think he can give up his gun legally
No, but,
based on
you
a
know,
license to carry, but
I mean,
it's a whole nother conversation.
This isn't Rambo 2, you know what I mean? I mean, come on.
I get that. I really do, but
Commissioner Howe?
I agree on the issue of foreseeability regarding permitting disturbance. The issue I have with the failure to call the police is, it's my understanding the first call that came in at 12:55 a.m. was because this guy didn't have his jacket.
I don't think, Commissioner, if you look at the CAD report, the woman was the first one that called.
The woman inside the bar.
The woman inside the bar that Mr. Welch referred to,
And approximately what time did that call come in?
55 minutes after midnight.
So,
The second call came in. It's, the CAD is incorrect. It says received second call from female. If you look at the times, it says 00:55. And then the second call, the male who says, I need to get my jacket, comes in at 1 in the morning and 24 seconds. So she calls 5 minutes before he does. He's the guy that they escort out of the bar.
right, because the report that we have through, let me ask Captain Hodgson.
Yes. According to the CAD report, when we pulled the call,
Yeah,
the first call was, as stated here, was the male call about the jacket, not the victim of the assault, for the jacket. And the dispatcher typed, received second call from female and has her phone number, stating bound to assault her fiance and broke his teeth. That's in the narrative part that the
Right.
dispatcher types in the comments. So the original call and on the 911 calls that I sent was the first call we pulled was from the
was
the
the guy
male
with the
outside
coat.
wanting the jacket.
All right,
And it's common for people to call 911, especially if they're out-of-towners, because they don't know our business line. So it's not uncommon to receive 911 calls, even though it's not the right intent for someone, for like this instance with the jacket. But according to our CAD system, what the dispatcher told, the first narrative up top, he states, "See call outside, he was removed from bar, needs to retrieve his jacket." And then the next narrative below says, "Received second call," as I stated, from female, stating that bouncer assaulted her fiancé and broke his teeth. And at that result of that call, that's when we sent Trinity Ambulance down there. And I believe from the initial call at 12:55 a.m., there was about a 5-minute lapse. I would say officers, from what I understand, the radio transmissions arrived approximately 1 a.m. to the establishment.
I have a question for the captain.
Sure.
Putting aside the narrative, on the CAD report, could you explain to the commission what a CAD report is?
Yeah, it's a CAD, is a computer automated dispatch.
Okay, so that records the calls into the station, correct?
Right.
All right, and so the only thing that is manually entered is the narrative of the dispatcher,
No, that's
correct?
incorrect.
All right, but,
The dispatcher enters the location, enters all this information. They just don't type the narrative part. They have to input the time the call received. It's who the call taker was that took it. They take who they spoke to on the phone, which they did. They reported the male's name, his address, his phone number. And then the last thing that gets typed in is the narrative, where they put the information what the caller states, the specific problem is. And then the second thing, the same thing is received a second call from a female. That's the dispatcher right now.
right,
And when we pulled the CAD calls, the first call that we located was from the male caller. And then the second call, which was the only other call we received for this incident, was from the female caller, regards to her fiancé being assaulted.
but if,
And then when they arrived, the altercation was over. Like I said, I think there was approximately about a 5-minute response time from the time the 911 call came to, it got entered into the CAD system to the officers being dispatched. And when the officers arrived, the altercation was over. And during that 5-minute lag, and like I stated earlier, we did a 20-minute look back prior to the 12:55 call, and we looked 20 minutes forward to see if there was any other calls from any employees of the establishment for the gun. And I agree, the foreseeability as far as the assault, right, they couldn't foresee that. But I believe there is foreseeability in regards to the handgun. That's the problem with this. Nobody called the handgun that worked in there. I understand it was urgent to find it, but I think in a college bar with alcohol involved, with a 45 that everybody's been stressing tonight, that should have been the first priority, was the call about the gun. The officers did not find out about the gun until they got there and spoke to one of the, I believe they spoke to the victim of the assault, and they spoke to the person that left his jacket in there and told the officers, the initial responding officers, that he saw a gun fall to the ground during the altercation. That was the first time we were notified of a gun.
I think this,
Hold on one second. Assistant City Solicitor, you have anything to add before I give Mr. Hardigan the last word?
I'd just like to, just to clarify, that, in my opinion, in terms of the 1.20 illegal activities allegation, the notification is simply a question of fact. And in my opinion, as I read that, it's the licensee or a representative of the licensee that's supposed to be doing the notification. It's not just anybody who happened to be there. And also in terms of the second alleged violation, that is where the foreseeability factor applies.
Okay. Commissioner Howe?
So, as I was saying,
My apologies, by the way.
someone called because they left their coat in the bar, and then someone else called because her boyfriend was assaulted. So those calls went into the police station.
Yes.
My concern is that there was no one at that bar that worked there that actually called the police. We know that no one called because, okay, the police showed up. But if this guy didn't leave his coat and this woman's boyfriend, if she didn't care about her boyfriend and didn't call, would the police have been notified? And we all know the importance of that law is to make sure the police get there to stop any escalation. So I agree the police showed up, but how do they cede their responsibility to people in the bar, or some guy outside on the street that forgot his coat? That's the problem I have. So they have to have someone in that bar that has the responsibility of calling the police, especially because there's a loose gun.
if I could respond to that, that's no dispute. I mean, we've conceded the fact that a call wasn't made. But what we're dealing with is the local rule. In what Mr. Welch testified to, and I won't belabor it, but he said they came there. I would like to go back to the captain, though, because I think it's critical that the commission understand. On this CAD report, where it refers to the second female, the very bottom line says RCV, and then it has 005530. Doesn't that mean that's when the call was received?
Yes, that's when the first 911 call was received at
Okay,
at
and then
12:55
when it
a.m.
refers up to the top, it says time, and again, I have a redacted CAD report, right? So I don't have the rest of it. I mean, it's cut off. I've got the same thing you do, but it's cut off at the bottom, right? I don't have all of this information down here. Yes, I don't have the same. All right, and then the second call is, and that refers to the man, correct? Where it says time, it says 101:0024. Correct? And that's referring to the call that the individual male made. I lost my jacket, I need access, correct?
Oh, no, that's, if you look at the top, we have the date and time of the initial call, 12:55. Then the second call comes in at 1 a.m., and that says and the narrative has the date, 1 a.m., call alert acknowledged with the dispatcher's name, then the dispatcher types, received second call from female. So yes, I will say the female called at 1 a.m., that is correct. The cruisers were dispatched at 12:58 a.m. That's the 12:58 time comes in. That DSP is an acronym for dispatch.
Yep.
So,
Captain, but if the report is printed at 12:55, right? And all we have is 2 calls that came in. That means that the first call was made at 12:55, and it refers to the woman making the call.
no,
All right.
We're going to go on forever.
Hold on.
I'm not sure.
I don't want to belabor this, I don't want to go back and forth. Call wasn't made, period. Okay? I'm not going to continue going back and forth. And I'm not sure who brought up the point, but it was a very good point. We don't know what happened in there. Why don't we know? There's no cameras. There's no surveillance system at the last safe and deposit. That's a worry. And obviously, if something of this nature would happen again, and we have no cameras, this is not a good situation.
That's a $10,000 issue.
Sure is. But it's better than probably losing your license. So I'm going to make a motion that a surveillance system be installed in the last safe and deposit. And I'd also make a motion that the call was not made and that last safe and deposit be suspended for 2 days on complaint 1.20. We have 4 days that are being held in abeyance already. 2 of them I would like to have be served. Those dates, Ryan, tell me if they work for you. And I would ask for a second first, and I apologize.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Today is April 11th. Like the 2 days held in be suspension on April 25th and 26th. Ryan, is that good with you? Getting the paperwork out, everything that's needed to be? All right, Captain Hodgin, you'll be gathering that license on the 25th and 26th. They'll be able to get the license on the 27th.
If I could ask a question.
Commissioner
Mr. Ch-
Donahue, go right ahead.
You're saying that on the new complaint that's before us right now, 2 days
2 days to be served.
to be served?
From prior meeting, there was a motion made, I believe, by you to put 2 days held in abeyance
Okay.
for 1 year.
So is that now 4 days that we're
So
talking
now
about?
we have 2 days still held in abeyance and 2 to be served.
And 2 to be served.
Ryan, you good with that? Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I'd like to
sure.
have the second allegation, the violation of 2.4.
Yep.
Just placed on file.
Seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Do we have to vote?
Do we have to vote on that? We don't have to vote on that, or do we? Ryan? Do we have to vote on the suspension?
Well, you made the motion,
It was seconded by Commissioner
seconded, but
McCarthy.
do you want to, I would assume it is there any concern by any of the commissioners not to approve it? I mean, if you want to do a roll call, like it needs to be done.
If Commissioner Donahue was asked for it, let's do it.
Why don't we do a roll call?
Would you like a roll call?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Chairman Dakota,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Yes.
Commissioner Howe,
Yes.
and Commissioner Donahue.
Yes.
Just to add that, concerning the surveillance system, and Captain Hodgin, I'd like to have, make sure that this is installed. I'll give Laugh Safe and Deposit 3 weeks to get the surveillance system installed. All right, that should, by the time they order it and get it installed, 3 weeks should be fine.
3 weeks from today?
3 weeks from today. Do you feel that that's enough time? Do you feel that they would, knowing,
I think they may need a little longer time as far as finding a system that's suitable. So-
Attorney Hardigan, I'm up for
I-
4 weeks, all right?
At this point, I mean, I assume if we find that, as I said, I'm a fish out of water, what's involved in getting a surveillance, what's,
Okay.
you know, who you hire, what the process is, I don't,
I'm sure the Lowell Police Department have plenty of people that be able to help them out with the pricing. I'm just looking for coverage. I don't need colors and everything, you know, flashy lights, just, I want to make sure I can see everything that's going on inside the bar. You have 4 weeks from today to have it installed. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Second by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Good night, everyone.
Thank you.